Now, what else is going on? Well, in a few days, it's only been a few days since the death of that terrific bloke, former Army General, Liberal Senator for New South Wales, Jim Molan, a celebrated Australian true patriot. But already in Liberal Party circles, at least, his Senate replacement's being discussed. Now, one push from my mate, Victorian Liberal Michael Kroger, is to install former Prime Minister Tony Abbott into the position. I mean, Christy, look, despite the value of the idea, we love Tony Abbott, I just think this is just too soon to be discussing Jim Molan's replacement. Heaven help us, this is so inappropriate.
Well, first of all, it is the nature of politics, Gary, and you and I both know this, that vacancies, however they are caused, sets alight several people who are ambitious enough to declare their interest and start the rumour mill going. And the Labor Party experienced this with the tragic death of Kimberley Kitching last year as well. And the chatter was alive and well many hours later. Yes, you're right on that count. Secondly, you may know or recall, I was a press secretary to Tony Abbott in the Howard government a long, long time ago. He is one of the best men in Australian politics, a brilliant intellect and a man of significant integrity, ability and love of Australia. However, the Liberal Party is facing a number of challenges in retaining majority party precedent over Labor and the independents, and it is a time of renewal, a necessary renewal in the Liberal Party, and regenerating people who have had their term, albeit who have left an incredible legacy, is probably not the way forward for the Liberal Party at the moment.
No, fair call too. It's going to be the big issue of the year, this Indigenous voice to Parliament. But as the Prime Minister found out yesterday with a few bumpy interviews, it's got a long way to go to get Australians on side over the issue. The Prime Minister was evasive, misleading, and now his office has been accused of censoring by altering the official transcript of his interview with Ben Fordham on 2GB. Take a listen to the interview again.
So you got legal advice from the Solicitor General?
No. We got advice from a range of High Court judges, former High Court judges are on the record, such as Justice French and others.
And now take a look at what was published by the Prime Minister's office. Well, Sophie, it seems that no means no, doesn't it? I mean, what do you think? The Prime Minister seems to be censoring his own answers here.
Well, Gary, this is an old-fashioned media trick, by political types who, when they stuff up, they put out these transcripts and they omit their errors, and that's what's happened here. Look, Peter Dutton described this interview with Ben Fordham as a train wreck. For those who haven't listened, it goes for 20 minutes and it's really difficult to follow. There's lots of toing and froing, lots of misunderstandings, it seems, between Ben Fordham and the Prime Minister. It's not clear really what this voice is from that interview. I kind of felt like, Gary, listening to it, it was a bit of the John Hewson birthday cake sort of situation where it's not very well explained. And really, as you know, Gary, these politicians have to act like salesmen. They have to sell this if they want the public to throw their support behind it. And at the moment, I think the voice is in an awful lot of trouble because I think most Australians will have no clue what it is. And it seemed to me like the Prime Minister was having an awful lot of trouble trying to explain it in simple terms. And I think this is going to be the problem that lies ahead in the months coming.
Yeah, it was the vibe. It wasn't a good look, Mr Prime Minister, no doubt about that. Now to Queensland, where the pressure is continuing to mount on the Health Minister, Yvette D'Arth, over the maternity crisis. Expectant mothers in the great central Queensland city of Gladstone, they're actually having to travel great distances just to give birth safety. And I mean, Christy, surely this is about accountability. Yvette D'Arth just keeps stumbling over the numbers again. She's done it again today. The crisis only worsens. Surely she has to go.
Well, Gary, she could end up as the next governor of Queensland. We know everybody in Queensland who does a bad job with the health system ends up appointed to such a prominent position. I suggest she starts polishing the silverware so she can move in. But interestingly, the Queensland government has absolutely let down the women of Queensland for so many years now since they've been in office. Did you know this was a crisis in 2014 when they closed down 40 regional birthing units? That's 40 across Queensland. They convened a summit. Guess what's happened? Nothing. It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, no, they like to have summits. Regional areas do not need to give birth, it seems. Now, Sophie, are you having any trouble with cabs in Melbourne? All these reports about the price gouging going on during the Australian Open. Are you paying too much for your cab rides?
Well, Gary, I stick to old-fashioned public transport down here because the cabs are fleecing patrons, particularly down at the tennis, Gary. They're charging, reports out today, up to $100 to go from the Australian Open up to the CBD, which is about a 20-minute stroll. There's a loophole that allows taxi drivers to negotiate fares, and they are fleecing people. So this puts the light back on rules around taxi operators as to why they're allowed to get away with ripping off customers.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Sophie, Christy, great always to have you in the discussion. Thank you.